It's the intel about the next generation of Bulldogs. This is Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger.
Let's go, I'm a Bulldog.
Welcome in, everyone. I'm Kaylee Mansell with DawgNation recruiting insider Jeff Sentell, and Jeff has informed us that this past weekend he saw the best single game performance he's ever seen from a Georgia recruit in his lifetime.
Yeah, people are going to say like recency bias. I know that's one of those things people are trying to say, oh, guys, are you engagement farming here? Kaylee, I've, 10th, 11th season of doing this. I think when you combine like the stakes, biggest game in school history, regular season game, they were playing a school 3 times their size. Stadium holds like 3,000. There were 8,000 people that showed up in their lawn chairs that were ringing the stadium. Computer simulation. I like this, Kaylee. A computer simulation, the world famous Massey ratings, which predicts high school games across the country. They predicted Nashville Christian to lose 34-14.
Wow.
20 points. For GHSA folks, I'm going to tell you, it's sort of like expecting Prince Avenue Christian to take on Marist. It's kind of the stakes here. And Kaylee, we got some stuff to tell you. We got a lot to unpack. I think we probably need to reference the Nashville Christian water here. Kaylee called it holy water, you thought?
It's the holy water.
The holy water when we went there and we saw Jared Curtis commit. This brings to mind, Kaylee, this great movie known as Tombstone. I'm sure you've seen it.
Of course.
All the cool kids have seen it. And there's that scene where, like, you know, Wyatt Earp basically charges across into battle. He's going through the creek. He's, you know, gunslinging left and right. Jared Curtis basically walked on water on Friday, and like one of the Cowboys afterward was like, "Man, shoot, have you ever seen anything like that?" Kaylee, I don't know if I've ever heard of anything like that. It's a granddaddy long legs type of performance. You think about it coming from a 5-star with those stakes, Kaylee. I don't mind making a statement like that. Seeing it live, seeing the thrill of the game. I think they were down 14-0 to begin the game, and then we saw Jared Curtis show the world why he's a 5-star.
Well, with a performance like that, Jared Curtis is going to be the focus of today's episode of Before the Hedges. Along with some other topics, we'll show more highlights from the class of 2026. And then we'll do a recap of who were the big visitors at Marshall last weekend. What are the most important storylines to continue to follow over the next couple of months when it comes to recruitments? I've got a question of the week for Jeff this week based on some things that happened to other college football teams this last weekend. And then we do have a new name on the top targets list, so we'll do an updated top targets. But we'll start with Jared Curtis. When you have the best performance that our good friend here, Jeff Sentell, has seen since he's been in this position, of course Jared Curtis is going to be our dog of the week.
I'm a big dog, no leash, you all part, no teeth, that's a whole lot of wins on me. That's a whole lot of wins on me.
So a lot is about to happen here. We're going to look at some stats. We're going to look at some highlights. We're going to hear from Jared's coach. We're going to hear from Jared himself. But there was something during the pregame that stuck out to you. I want to show it to you here. I think this is a really good sign of somebody you want leading the 2026 class. He's dapping up everybody, going out of his way, taking alternate routes to make sure he addresses every single person on that team. That's exactly what you want out of a quarterback.
Kaylee, let me test your cool pop culture knowledge here. You know that Bo Callahan, right? Remember that guy from Draft Day?
Oh, of course.
That's the one that
he didn't go number 1.
That's the one nobody went to his birthday party, nobody hung out with. Kaylee, it's one of those things we want to see. We wanted to see this game, Kaylee, because this is the 5-star, and it was a max lift type of day. More weight on the bar than Nashville Christian had ever kind of tried to press. And I really went up there to Nashville, Kaylee, expecting to see, you know, would he fight? Would he not let down? Would it end up something like, 50-30? Would he just keep his team in it? The first thing I saw here, Kaylee, that touches my eye is him going up and down the warm-up line, dapping everybody. Like, one of the things fans reached out to me about this game already, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Jeff, what's wrong? The team is not celebrating with him on all of his touchdowns." I wouldn't worry about that. They celebrated with him on almost all the touchdowns. The problem was there were 6 touchdowns in this thing, and you want to talk about the stuff more than football. I thought that was a really good moment from Jared Curtis, and I'm told he does this every week. And I also saw him, Kaylee, with my own eyes. Before he did all this great stuff on the field, he's yelling to his team. He's encouraging his defense. He's slapping hands. So, yeah, he's a 5-star. But can you be more of a 5-star teammate? Visual evidence right here.
So he ultimately gets the 42-41 overtime win over Ainsworth. And you did mention that they were an underdog headed into that game, but you also said it was the most important game in school history. Apart from them just going in as an underdog, why were the stakes of that game so high?
It was kind of one of those things where everybody, this is kind of what we're seeing right now with Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Everybody's dredging up those high school highlights, and it looks like he's playing JV teams, can we say that, or a bunch of kids that maybe are not playing intramural football right now in college. And this was one of those things where I wanted to see what the 5-star would look like. The other side of the field, the defense. There's a Minnesota commit. I believe there's an Western Kentucky commit. They had big, good football players. It was a much larger school. This was a team that went undefeated and lost in the semifinals last year. In the highest private school classification in Tennessee. Oh, yeah, and by the way, the offensive coordinator is Matt Hasselbeck, who spent 18 years in the NFL. The head coach is his older brother, Tim Hasselbeck, who spent 6 years in the NFL. This was a real bona fide football team challenge for Jared.
So enough of the talk. Let's show you the tape. We've got some highlights from the 42-41 overtime win, starting with this one, which I just think is good quarterback play in general. You see a lot of things right here. You're going to see the fake right there, scramble. We know that he's comfortable in that role, and then an incredible throw right here on the run.
Kaylee, this was kind of the wow viral highlight. He's throwing across his body, rolling to his left, and throwing back into coverage for a first down.
You see some more scrambling here. Breaks one guy's ankles on the run. No quarterback that big should be able to run like that.
6'3 plus, 230, Kaylee, and the game plan, they knew it was going to be hard. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to spread Ainsworth out and then let Curtis do some damage with his legs.
That fake throw right there almost got me when I watched this for the first time. I was like, who's he throwing it to? I mean, that in itself is impressive. Fakes, runs, touchdown.
There's some teammates celebrating for everybody was worrying about those Bo Callahan moments. And Kaylee, the highlights for this thing are going to go like 3 minutes long. Look how quickly he gets this ball out.
Yeah, I love that he's not afraid to throw in tight coverages, and then we just see him pop up out of nowhere here, not afraid to run into the middle of the pack.
You know, the one other thing, Kaylee, I want to make this very clear. 5 stars are rated that way, but based on projection. What I really loved about Jared Curtis, when watching him live, you still have to play the football game. And Kaylee, what sticks out? Look at this.
That was a basketball play right there.
It was a chest pass. What he does is he plays the game like a 5-star, and sometimes we miss that with these elite prospects with all the size.
And, too, it's just such a versatile tape here from Jared Curtis. You've got an equal mix of on the run, throwing, scrambling, in the pocket. So I like that we get a diverse mix from Curtis here.
Kaylee, that one pass that he threw basically to the shins of his receiver, I actually thought to myself, how many Georgia receivers would have caught that ball last year? He just keeps stacking plays after play. They were down 14-0, Kaylee. So many crucial spots. This one right here is the 2-point conversion to win the game. Oh, yeah, Jared Curtis called that play.
And he's had 2 2-point conversions, right, in the overtime?
Yeah, not just 6 touchdowns, 3 rushing, 3 throwing. He converts 2 touchdowns in both of these plays, the 2-point conversion plays. Kaylee, this was the first time Nashville Christian led the entire game 42-41, and that was the final play of the game.
Also, there's something I want to point out here. If you're looking closely at the video, you can see how close the fans are to the field. Not that many seats in general in that venue, and so having all of that crowd noise being so close to you, still having to call plays, still maintain focus, that's good preparation for the next level.
So, Kaylee, here's the one thing about him, and we're seeing this viral clip again. You put the defense under so much stress because what you ask them to do is, oh, yeah, let's spy the quarterback with our fastest guy. Okay, probably the fastest guy is about 185, 190. Jared is 230. Not one guy is ever going to bring him down. I consistently saw in this game, Kaylee, he made the first and second guy miss. Look here again at this play as he rolls out. Kaylee, this was with 4 seconds left in the game to try and force overtime. They needed the score, and they needed the 2-point 2-point play. This was another play that follows this where he basically draws it up, and on the sideline right before this, they're going with a pop jump pass. That tied the game. That forced overtime at the end of regulation.
All right, so now that you've seen the tape, let's talk about the stats. All right, 20 of 29 passes for 190 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Also ran for 16 times for 140 yards with 3 more scores. And what you talked about, he also added a pair of 2-point conversions and a 42-41 overtime win. When the pressure was on and it mattered the most, Jared Curtis gets the job done.
It's funny, Kaylee. One of the things that really sticks out with me, and this was the first kind of myth buster from this game, and everybody was like, okay, Jared Curtis is great. Hadn't played anybody. This, my friends, is the best competition he could face. I believe it was a number 4 team in the state of Tennessee. I think Nashville Christian, according to the Max Preps ratings, is somewhere around 30 or 40 in the state. Again, there are only 270 kids for classification purposes. So that's the first thing. One of the things that Nashville coach Jeff Brothers stressed after the game was he's like, everybody says NFL arm, great size, going to Georgia, but hadn't played anybody. They were playing that haven't played anybody card. Well, you can't play that anymore when it comes to Jared Curtis and his evaluation.
Speaking of his head coach, Jeff Brothers, you were not the only person that was impressed with Jared's performance. Jeff Brothers also had a lot to say about it, so we'll hear from Jared Curtis's head coach, Jeff Brothers.
You're an expert on him. I'm not. Is that the best game you've ever seen him play?
It is, from the standpoint of just will to win, leadership, refusal to let your team down. He was seeing things well. He was making good decisions. He was, just a warrior in every sense of the word. And we knew when it got down to the end right there, just put the ball in his hands and let something happen. We talked about our team all along. We didn't want to come with the idea that we were trying to rise to the occasion. We wanted to be the occasion. And I think he proved that tonight, that he is the occasion. And I couldn't be more proud of him.
We talked this week about you're going to learn something from this game no matter what. What did you learn from this game tonight?
I learned that we got a good football team. I learned that our kids don't quit. I learned that we've got a tremendous leader that they rally around, and he makes them better, and he wants to make them better. He cares that they are a part of this as well. This is not just the stage that he wants to shine on. He wants to light on everybody. And I think you see that tonight. I think you see the way he was so excited for other guys to have success. He was running up down the sideline cheering for the defense and encouraging the young guys to be loud and vocal. And if you're looking for a leader, you got one. If you're looking to stop all the people who say there's some chink in the armor somewhere, I think we put the rest of that.
Coach, the X's and O's were great, but everything they made you, their defense, they pressured your receivers, everything was hard.
Yeah.
Like a lot of plays that might have been touchdowns for you.
Sure.
You guys get 12 yards, 15 yards.
Exactly, but what you see is a guy who's able to manage a football game, to make the plays that need to be made, to get the ball down the field, put the ball in the end zone. Yeah, that's a real football game against a real football team. And he just showed the ability to play in a game like that when he's not necessarily, he's the most superior athlete on the field, but he's not just the only guy out there who can play football. And I think if you're looking for somebody to be at the level that you guys are talking about, I don't know what else you can find. Really a big momentum play, and there's so many. But he scrambled one time over here in the second quarter. Second quarter. They kept the drive alive, jumped, and on the way out of bounds threw the ball across his body just for a first down. Just a seemingly insignificant throw and catch. But remarkable athleticism and ability to throw football through a keyhole. But that continued to drive, got us down there, put us in the end zone, and maintained the ability of our football team to believe that we were going to be able to win the game. First of all, in those 4 plays, he was going to get the ball in the end zone. That wasn't the question. The question was, what are we going to do for the 2-point conversion? And we're going to do something else. We're going to get him on a naked bootleg and maybe see if he can just make a play out in space on somebody and run an over route with one of our backside receivers just to give him an outlet. And then he came to the sideline and he said, Coach, he saw what he saw on defense the last time we lined up. He said, there's a gap open right there. Just give me the ball and I'm just going to go. And so we ran a quarterback sneak for the 2-point conversion from the 3-yard line. And Coach Tidwell, you just saw, said, what do you think? I said, I don't like it, but I like him.
Coach, 2 last ones. I talked to one of the Hasselbecks. He basically was like, when you can play above the X's and O's, you've got a really special player, and that's how they surmised Jared. Do you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely. Yeah, he plays unbelievably well within the X's and O's, if you want to go with that analogy. But he rises above just what you can put on paper and what you can draw up on the board and what you can game plan and rehearse. He's just uncanny, and he's got rare ability to make things happen, but he's such a great kid. That's the other thing I want y'all to know. Just unbelievable man, and cares about his friends, cares about his teammates, cares about his coaches. Had a lot of people that would have told him this was not maybe the place for him to stay and finish. I think tonight proved he did the right thing, and we're certainly glad he's here with us. And it could not happen to a better boy and a better family. So proud of him.
I mean, truly, I think the thing that's most impressive that he talked about was his confidence to come up to his coach and say, hey, I saw this. I want to use it for the 2-point conversion. That's high football IQ, high football intelligence. It kind of made me think that with some of like the greatest musicians of at least my generation, they've put out tons of hits but aren't able to write their own songs. They've got ghostwriters. It's the people that can write their own music, make those own calls that will transcend time. I think that's what we saw from Jared Curtis there, is not just the confidence in himself to say, hey, I got this, but to be able to go out there and execute, and also getting that read to know that, hey, this will be successful.
Kaylee, I think we're going to hit the bingo card on all the football movies we can do during this segment. There's a movie, I believe it was an Oliver Stone film. It was Any Given Sunday. At the end of this game, Jared was so spent. He was kind of wobbly. He took a hit that even one of the Hasselbecks kind of wondered if this was the NFL, whether they would put him on the sideline for concussion protocol. And he's pulling a Willie Beeman. I don't know if you know what that means, but he's losing his groceries going through the handshake line. He is just so exhausted. He is just so spent. That's the type of effort that he put out for Nashville Christian. And I mean, it seems like we can go on, but like there's so many moments. Like there's one moment they're down 34-26. There's under 4 minutes left to play. He marches his team down the field. It's one of the things I didn't know about Jared Curtis, the things that you can't find on a recruiting ranking or a huddle highlight. This is going to sound so stupid when I say this, for a 6-touchdown performance. But he really played within the scheme. He was really sort of like a game manager against a much better team and kept giving his team the chance to win. And like the confidence he showed, the confidence he has. There was one point when they were down there, and immediately everybody on the offensive staff said, okay, we know Jared's going to score a touchdown with 4 downs from the 10-yard line. What are we going to do? Are we going to, what's our 2-point conversion? Are we going to kick it? And one of the other things about this game, there's so many subplots, is the starting long snapper's out. They have a freshman long snapper in. That's why they get 2 extra points blocked. And that's one of the things you heard Coach Brothers say, is he's like, I don't like the call. Kaylee, they ran a quarterback sneak from the 3 to win the game. That's not a good call. He says, I don't like the call, but I like the guy. And that's what they rode with Jared Curtis.
So now I think it's time we go ahead and hear from the future quarterback himself. This is Jared Curtis and a Before the Hedges DawgNation conversation.
So many moments.
Yes, sir.
Jared, which one sticks out to you? What part of this sticks out to you?
Just winning in general, getting it done with the teammates. We've been looking forward to this for months. Still not the most important game in our season. We still got to win a ring. Okay, so it's just the second game of the season. We got to take it day by day and week by week, and trying to go undefeated this year. So,
walk me through what you were seeing on that. Obviously, the last 2 plays of the game. I felt like you, with 4 downs, you were going to get those 10 yards. Like, were you already thinking about 2-point plays? Like, what did you tell them when they had time to make a 2-point play?
We talked about it before we went out there. We had confidence that we was going to score, and we discussed it before we went out there, and coach changed it up the second time, and it was the right play call, and we got it done.
Is this the best you can play, the best you've played considering the opponent?
I think I always got a lot of room to improve on. Definitely not my best game I've ever played. Probably not my worst. So, I think I just got to keep getting better and better each day.
Any play stick out to you? Obviously, I like your ball in the corner to Grigsby. You had a jump pass. Tell me about the jump pass, the one that you guys converted to force overtime. Did you guys talk about that in the huddle, or was that improvised?
So actually, we've been running that play every single time we get on the goal line. We've never done that. So I was thinking, I actually drew that play up, surprisingly. So,
drew it up when? When'd you draw it up?
Right before we went out there. So I just told him, pop to the back of the end zone, and I'm going to nosedive, pop up and pass it to you. And he done it, and it worked perfect.
How tough were they? It looked like everything you guys could get, you had to scrape for it. Some balls I thought maybe would be touchdowns against other teams. It's just like a 10-yard gain, 12-yard gain.
Yeah,
How
sure.
tough were they to move the ball against?
That was a really good team. That's all I gotta say.
Tell me about just how fun that was. Like, you'll probably remember this all your life.
Yes,
you
sir.
score. What? Can you describe what happened after you won the game on the 2-point conversion? What do you remember about that moment?
At first, we changed the play back. We changed the play. I wasn't very confident in it, to be honest. And then, we didn't have no other option. So, you get the ball and you dig your feet. And people behind me pushed. O-line done a great job all game. And, we got it done.
Did you think you could get A-gap? I mean, sometimes quarterback will look at that and they'll say, I can get A-gap. Did you think you could get that?
I did. I just got behind my line and started moving their feet. They moved forward, I moved forward, and we got into the end zone.
How much fun was this?
Very, very. It's probably the funnest game I've ever had.
Do you think you guys sent a message?
For sure. They're supposed to be the biggest private school team in the state, number 4 team in the state. But, we got the job done, and we're supposed to be the smallest. So, that doesn't really matter.
What do you think you showed people tonight about your game?
Competition doesn't matter. I think that there's a lot of people out there that talk about a lot of little competition, small private school. But, we can get it done against anybody.
Is there anything you can't wait to look at the film at and see? Is there anything you want to replay?
The reads I missed and the balls I missed, going back and getting those picked up for next week.
I hear you won't be in Athens tomorrow because you got what? Film study, and then you got ACT next week?
Next week. I
So
think Austin P, whenever that is.
So your first game at Georgia will be Alabama, huh?
Yes, sir, night game. Hopefully they can finish like this.
Jared, what was this environment like? People have told me this is probably the biggest regular season game in Nashville history, the biggest crowd. Like, did you notice the juice tonight?
Definitely. There's a lot of people here, and it was a good game. And, I knew all along we just had to execute and get the job done, and we did. And, we came out with a win.
How many more overtimes did you have in you?
As many of it is to win. How many ever?
Pretty tired, though, right now, huh?
Very.
Jared Curtis, man, I appreciate you, man. I think you played. I think the one knock everybody always says, he looks great. Looks like an NFL arm, but does he play anybody?
Yes, sir.
That was a really good team that you guys showed a lot tonight. Sent a message across your state, I might have meant.
Yes, sir.
Jared, thanks for your time, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
We talked a lot about the X's and O's from this game, and it's really easy to look at that because, the stats in itself are crazy. But was there anything that you walked away from this game thinking, like, I learned something new about Jared Curtis today?
It's a lot. It's basically the other team. Another thing that the other team. This is absurd, Kaylee. I've never seen a game where the other team ran 33 times for 369 yards and lost.
Yeah.
The quarterback for this team, Ensworth, is going to Wyoming. He's a Division I player. And they basically said, oh, geez, let's ball control, let's stall, let's keep the ball out of Jared Curtis's hands. They didn't turn the ball over, Kaylee. They ran for 390 yards and 12 yards per carry, and they lost. That's because it was one of those games where coming in this game, I asked Coach Brothers, I says, how do you coach this? Do you say, Jared, I need you to wear the cape this week? He says, no. We just need to do the ordinary things extraordinarily. Not do anything extraordinary. But then he said, if he just wants to pull out something extraordinary, I won't mind. I won't chastise him for it. I thought Jared was pretty humble there. He said, that's not the best game I've ever played, probably not the worst game I've ever played. This is a signature win. One of the things, I have a network of reporters all across the Southeast from doing this for many, many years in my career. They told me this win opens eyes across the state of Tennessee, but not just Tennessee, but across the country.
Mm-hmm. So coming up, we'll have highlights for more players in the class of 2026, and we'll do a recap of some of the most important visitors from Georgia's opener against Marshall. But first, we want to remind you that here on Before the Hedges, we are brought to you by Kroger. And I always associate Kroger with football season in a way, kind of, especially on Sundays when it's NFL, because I want to have home-cooked food, but I never want to drive to go get it on Sundays, which is why I love Kroger Boost, because you can have groceries delivered to your house, and that's something that I'm definitely going to have to do this Sunday in honor of NFL starting. And this is just good for all of football season. If you like to stay at home on Saturdays and watch the game, you can have groceries delivered to your house, or if you're prepping for tailgates, have those groceries delivered early to you. And with Kroger Boost, you can also save up to $1,000 per year with 2 times the fuel points and, of course, that free grocery delivery. So to sign up today, go to Kroger.com/boost. Again, that's Kroger.com/boost. I mean, wow, what an amazing performance from Jared Curtis, but there were also some other guys in the 2026 class that really stood out. We're going to show it to you all here on Mansell's Details. So the first one we're going to start out with is the wide receiver Brady Marchese. I actually saw this early Saturday morning. Oh my God. What a gorgeous catch. The timing of that right there. In my game last Friday that I went to, I saw so many people going up way too early. Brady Marchese, perfect timing here with a 42-yard touchdown grab.
Lots of people on social media flip me this one and they start talking about it. Jeff, did you see this? And they even brought up the name, which was an unorthodox name. They brought up George Pickens just because of the ability to have catch radius and go up and get a ball. I think a lot of people think that Brady Marchese is just going to be that slot receiver, kind of like Lad McConkey right there. I think he's got a little bit more than that, especially when he went up and got that ball.
So he finishes the night with 3 catches for 82 yards and a 42-6 win over Hapeville Charter. We'll move on to another pass catcher. This is going to be the 5-star tight end commit, Caden Prothro. 2 clips to show you here. This is an 80-yard touchdown. Pretty simple route, but watch him knock down that first guy right there. Just takes off into another gear after that and goes to the end zone.
I think the cool kids call that the truck stick from Madden. And we'll say this one thing about Caden, because Caden caught a lot of flack for how he did not play, did not take over games in the season opener against a very good Fellowship Christian team. Kaylee, this is back-to-back. He's put up fantasy football numbers, 150 yards, 5 catches, got another interception on defense this week, and also he had an explosive viral touchdown.
Let's look at this next play right here for Caden Prothro as well. You see him start out right there on the corner. This one shows more of his pass catching abilities for me, because watch him go up right here, kind of similar to that Brady Marchese touchdown. Just perfect timing, great trust.
Again, most people wonder, is he going to be a tight end? Is he a wide receiver? He's playing wide receiver exclusively in high school. But last time we talked to Caden, he says he's warming to the fact that his professional future long-term is at tight end, and that's where he'll likely slot at Georgia.
Listen to this crazy stat. Finishes the night with 3 passes for 156 yards. Talk about making the most of your opportunities. That's what Caden Prothro does. All right, so now we're going to move to the defensive side of the ball. This is going to be Shadarius Tootle. You see him right there in the back. Great detection. Gets the interception. Takes it almost all the way back. Not quite, but he's got some speed on him too.
He does, and again, he's playing in the middle, kind of the first time he's done that. Former Auburn commit, now dedicated Georgia commit. Kaylee, I don't know if we have this video, but he also had a 65-yard rushing touchdown in this game as well.
Well, we've got this one right here. It's not the touchdown, but it's a really big hit from Shadarius Tootle. Takes that guy down instantly.
Georgia's got 2 backers right now. Georgia really likes Shadarius. Shadarius was actually in Athens on Saturday for the Marshall game, and can't wait to show you what his dad wore in the stands. You'll get a kick out of that.
So you mentioned he had the 65-yard touchdown run, also finishes with 10 tackles on the night for Shadarius Tootle. Now we'll move on to Caden Harris, who is going to be a DB for the Dogs, but really flashed on the offensive side of the ball for his team on Friday.
Plays the X wide receiver. He basically plays the whole game at corner and receiver. Kaylee, this was a shootout. I think it was something like 55-32 or 42 or something like that. His team Haywood team comes down on the losing side of that. But look at that fire, passion, and energy right there. Kaylee, you going to give him a blue cap for that already?
He's got that FPE. All right, so that's going to wrap up the video coverage that we have. Also, 2 performances that we wanted to mention. One of them is from a Georgia wide receiver commit, Craig Dandridge, who had 8 catches for 133 yards, including a 65-yard touchdown.
It was an interesting play, but he kind of made it look ho-hum. It was just, this is another average 65-yard touchdown. He beat his man, caught a go ball in the end zone, kind of perfect play.
And somebody that I got to see last Friday night, even though Colquitt County did not get the win, I thought Jay Lamar's performance Sports really stood out. 20 carries for 141 yards. But this was a really tough North Gwinnett defense. But even in a loss, big players stand out.
I was told Jay Lamar probably played that game at about 85%, maybe if that. Consistently moved the chains against a very good North Gwinnett team with college prospects and the like. Now, again, Colquitt goes up and loses to a very good North Gwinnett team, but when Jay Lamar walks away from that game, 7 yards per carry, over 140 yards, when he's maybe 85% coming off an injury in the opener, that's a good showing.
So Jay Lamar was perhaps one of the most important visitors at the Marshall game, and we'll touch on that here in just a second. But now that football season is back in full swing, that also means that our game day coverage at DawgNation is also back in full swing. You can see myself for the DawgNation game day. It's always 2 hours before the game. This week you can catch it at 1:30. It's all the last minute things you need to know before Georgia takes on Austin Peay. And then, of course, immediately after the game, it's Brandon Adams at the bookstore. If you're in Athens, go visit him there. If not, you can join live. You can also call in, give your opinions on the game as well. So if you want to get notified anytime that DawgNation goes live, so that way you can get a reminder when those shows happen, make sure you subscribe to our DawgNation YouTube page, and you can get notified by hitting that little bell that you see next to subscribe. So join us and be a part of game day with us at DawgNation. So we'll take a look back at last week's visitors from Marshall. We're going to start with Jay Lamar because he is currently committed, has not shut down his recruitment. We're assuming that he's not going to go anywhere else, but why do we consider Jay Lamar to be the most important visitor of the opener?
Well, because he made it there. There was some rumblings that he was going to be at the Florida State game to see that. Well, it's probably a good thing he didn't see that, because Florida State was on some mojo later that night. It was a good night in Tallahassee, no doubt. But he said he wanted to start out around his brothers. One of the things he told me was he got to see what game day was like for a Georgia player. Kaylee, what does that mean? Let me kind of unravel that quote a little bit. Is he got to talk to the players in the locker room. He got to see what the game day preparation was like. He felt the love. He walked out to Sanford. He told me he's honestly lost count about how many times he's been to Athens for a game. Maybe 5, maybe 4, but it's really good to hear Jay Lamar say the things he's saying right now. Sure, he's going to listen to other schools, but he's not currently planning to visit any other school. Athens is his home. For Tyjavian, let's remember that. Tyjavian still feels like a dog right now.
I feel like it also kind of geographically made sense too, because I thought about asking Eric Godfrey if I could just sleep in the field house at North Gwinnett and then drive over to Athens after that. So we do have some video of some other guys that were at the game on Saturday. So if you want to walk us through some of the faces that we see in this video, that would be great.
So here's an old face, Jaden Hunter in the white shirt. Now he's a Georgia linebacker recruiting analyst. He's there with Kamari Brooks. You see Brady Marchese right there, probably telling somebody about that touchdown catch that went viral for his Cartersville guys right there. Then you see Zach Lewis right here, fresh off that win against Colquitt County, and he's got some Randy Macho Man Savage kind of sunglasses going. There's Caden Prothro again after another very big day. His touchdown and catch average is mighty high. I hate to say this about Anthony Lunnan. A.J. Lunnan has a torn meniscus. He doesn't know exactly what's going on with that. Prognosis to come. You see right there, Graham Houston, and in the background you see Ryan Mosley and Zyke Helton right there, fresh off their win as well. That large gentleman in the back in the skull cap right there, that's Joshua Sam Appel, maybe the biggest 2027 guy. Right there is Carter Lucky, Georgia legacy in the stands as well.
And then there's one more person that you wanted to mention, currently committed somewhere else, but is going to come up on our top targets later. That's Jared J. Doughty, who recently got a Georgia offer. Now, he's a 3-star offensive tackle. You've said it all off season that it would be nice to have another tackle in this class, considering that they only have Ekene Ogboko. I just can't help but think about, what is Del McGee thinking about this?
He's probably like, man, I'm going to keep him
now
away
I
from
don't stand a
Georgia.
chance.
He's like, what are you going to do with the offers right here? This is interesting because much in the case of Dennis Uzuchukwu last year, Georgia finds a late senior year surge guy. Kaylee, let's talk about this young man right here. First of all, was it Terrell last year? Now he's at Banneker. He weighed. I'm just going to let you think about this for a second, because we love to put Kaylee on the spot with good questions. What did he play last year at right now? What do you think he played last year? I'll tell you what he is right now. He's 6'6" and 300 pounds.
Weight wise?
What did he play weight wise?
Are we going up or are we going down?
He's way down. Like in your wildest dreams.
So he's 300 now?
He's 300 now, Kaylee, and I'm going to put some hot sauce on that question and give you a little bit of a lead. It's an extreme body change from junior year.
We're talking 230.
He was 240.
Okay.
I
went low.
It was 240, Kaylee, in his junior year. He was I believe he told me he was 280 when he committed to Dell McGee on June 22nd. What has he been doing besides having a lot of macaroni and cheese and chicken breast? He's been on the creatine. He's been on the protein. He was 281. Now he's 300. Georgia sees him as a tackle. Georgia was one of his dream schools, Kaylee. Georgia's coming hard. He said they're giving him the full court press. One more thing. He's very interested in an official visit with the Georgia Bulldogs, and he is circling. They're talking about it right now. Kaylee, they're in talks right now. He wants to be there for that Alabama game.
I'm sure he does.
And can you imagine? He already thought it was majestic to see Marshall inside Sanford Stadium. What do you think he's going to feel like after watching the Tide inside Sanford on a Saturday night in Athens?
Yeah, especially with it being a night game, too. Any other things you want to mention from the recruitment aspect of Georgia and Marshall?
Yeah, you got a lot of folks. Let me tell you, there's a preview. I believe last count, I tried to do this. I think 97% of the top 50 players in the country in 2026 are committed. So there's not going to be a week where this huge flip target comes in, especially not for Austin Peay. So you're not going to have a lot of juice off the visitors weekend this week, but what you're going to see is they're going to try and plant some seeds with guys like Joshua Sam Appel. You're going to see them try to plant some seeds with a lot of their key 2027s. And really, it's going to be the same cast of characters each and every week. The commitments, the solid commitments, staying at Georgia each and every week. And you're going to see a lot of those guys just kind of trying. You know, they're already dogs. They already want to be home. They only want to see the dogs play every week. But again, you won't get Jared Curtis until the Alabama game. Last past weekend, he had mandatory film study after the Innsworth game. This weekend, he's taking the ACT, SAT, one of those two, because you have to take it. You have to put something on the books.
Do you really? I was going to ask that.
Yeah, I don't care how good you are, Kaylee. You got to have a score to be admitted into the university, and that's one thing Jared has got to get checked off the box right there. But safe to say, I think he will qualify, and he will be able to enroll at the University of Georgia. But the juice maybe is not so much for these, paycheck games and everything else like that. But you really get to see a lot of the commitments kind of hanging out, having fun.
So to switch up things on the show here a little bit, I have a question for you, and it's kind of based off some things that happened last week. So this week on Before the Hedges, I have a question of the week. And funny enough, when I thought about this question, I'm pretty sure that's exactly how I was sitting downstairs eating my lunch.
Were you chewing on a pen by any chance?
No, I was having lunch and I was scrolling through Twitter on my phone and I saw an article and I was like, wait, this is a great question to talk to Jeff about. And it involves Alabama because I don't know where the article came from. I just saw it on Twitter. And basically it was like Alabama recruit still feels good despite loss at Florida State. And I was like, okay, I don't know who this kid is. Makes sense. But then I realized that Alabama has a lot of consensus 5 stars in their 2026 class. And that was an absolutely pitiful loss to Florida State on Saturday. There's no way around it. And it's still early in the season. We don't know where things head for Alabama. But just as like a general question, if a school like Alabama, if they underperform for the rest of the season, how will that affect their recruiting class and their recruiting rankings when we get to the end of the year?
I tell you what, first of all, that's one of those things where you want the recruits to say excellent or ecstatic about it. He said, I feel good about Alabama. Might be the only person around that Tide family that feels good about Alabama right now. Kaylee, this is what my eyes saw, and this is probably the most damning thing you can ever say about a football team. They looked very soft against Florida State. They didn't look like they gave a darn. They didn't look like they were playing with – I don't know if anybody would have gotten a blue cap for the way they played against Florida State. Here's what recruits want. This is their ideal. It's kind of like a hierarchy. Number one, they want to get to the league. Number two, that NIL kind of shows up in there after the development. And then the kind of number 3 is they want to have a great college experience. And the way you go to the league is you develop by playing big in big games. Now, if Alabama, folks, Google it. I did it last night with my family. Look at Alabama's schedule. It's going to be very hard if they play like that to get to 9 wins. Might be hard to get to 8 wins. So what they're going to see, and I think one of the other telling stats right now for Alabama, Kaylee, I think they're 5-5 in their last 10 games, and all those losses are to unranked teams. And so people that are just still falling in line with the Bama standard, you're going to see it change a lot if they lose 3, 4, 5 games this year. And again, what it is, are you getting me to the league? Are you giving me a great experience, making me play in these marquee spotlight games, the ability to showcase my talent if Alabama is no longer Nick Saban's Alabama? So I think that's the big thing they have to worry about. Yes, this class might be intact because they might be already compensated and locked in with NIL packages. But again, they're going to look at that, Kaylee, and they're going to go, Bama can't get me to the league anymore like I thought they would. And that's the biggest thing they're going to look at, I think.
Yeah, and at this point, it gets confusing because money is involved, and it's like, how much do you really care about that if, like you said, you already have compensation? But just considering some of the 5 stars that they do have in their class, I'm looking at these guys like they're not going to want to have losing seasons. These are guys that came here to not just get paid but win national championships. And I don't know who the one guy was that said he was fine, but just looking at some of their 5 stars that they have, some of them being flips already, I just didn't know if we saw them still be committed to the Tide by the end of the year if the trajectory keeps going that same way.
I think you would see changes, Kaylee, if they end up 6-6 or if they end up 5-7. You would see changes. Because here's the thing. Kaylee, there are a lot of 5 stars on that field against Florida State and Tallahassee. And you saw all the tweets. You saw Gus Malzahn saying feels like old times with his tweet. And let's kind of say this for what it is. I think Cole Kublik, noted SEC Network guy, said it very well when he said, Bama was taking blows. Bama was absorbing hits. Bama was not delivering the blow. Bama was not meeting the blow. I think there's a very interesting tweet. I'm not going to get into total details, but if you want to find Trent Richardson, the former Alabama running back, he makes a point about an Alabama player that definitely is the definition of letting somebody have their way or letting somebody run over you in the line of scrimmage. So not a good look right now. And I mean, I would say this, anybody that saw the Kaylen DeBoer press conference this week.
Oh my God.
Kaylee, give me a thought or two on that because that got a reaction from me.
I sat right here. Typically, this is where Brandon sits, kind of in this area, and I needed full focus, attention, and quiet to watch it. So I came in here and I watched it, and it was just, I have the worst secondhand embarrassment of anybody you know. Anybody that's watching knows I've got it, and I'm having like chill bumps on my arms just because the questions that are being asked they're valid questions, but they're really tough. There was no holding back on them. And then just, you could tell that Kaylen DeBoer had so much anxiety already going into the interview, and that only continued to show in his answers to his questions. I actually think he filibustered a lot of it because if you notice those first couple of questions, he spends probably 4 or 5 minutes talking about it. And it wasn't like it was 4 or 5 minutes of good things to say. It was just kind of repeating himself. So I think he thought, the more I talk, the less questions that they're going to have. But if you have not watched it, it's just great entertainment. It's great study of body language. So I would go back and watch it. But I definitely feel like for most of it, I had my hands in my face just like that because I was embarrassed for him.
So the things that don't seem very Alabama-ish right now is, number one, you've got a coach who comes from Washington when there was really no pressure at all to win. Like if they beat a Pac-12 team by 7, way to go.
Yeah.
Now this job, considering this start, and they might not have Ryan Williams for a while, at least like it looked like he had a concussion at the end of the game last week. So it becomes very pressure-packed very quickly. And let's face it, everybody still loves to catch Alabama on the schedule, maybe pull a Belichick on some Alabama this year if they get the chance. So that's going to be very interesting. But then you also see, again, these are just internet rumors, and sometimes they're 75 to 85% accurate. Sometimes they're just woefully off. But you hear a lot of rumblings from those around the Alabama program. I still know a lot of people in that state from when I worked in media in Alabama, and they tell me that it's just not the same structure
Yeah.
around this program. And listen, this is all-time GOAT structure. You know, when Saban speaks, everyone listens. I don't think that buy-in is there right now, especially when the product is not there on the field.
Yeah, Jay Black and I, who Jay Black produces our show, of course, we had a really long conversation about this yesterday, how Nick Saban almost made that an impossible job to take over anyway, but now you've got two coaches who feel like they're the total opposite of one another, so of course your players are going to act and react differently when the chain of command and just the leadership style is different in general, so we'll see how it all plays out. Definitely not the week one story I thought we were going to be talking about. I thought it was a blowout, but it also, everything kind of comes back to recruiting in the end anyway. So we'll move on from that, but just something to follow along with. We'll move on to our class breakdown, starting with the offensive side of the ball. And if you weren't here last week, now we've got guys that have locks next to them, those that have shut down their recruitment. I'm so excited to say that this week I get to see some Buford guys. I'm headed to Roswell at Buford, get to see the new stadium, get to see guys like Graham Lewis as well as Ty Green. So I'm really excited to see them play in person.
Yeah, beautiful stadium. Obviously, the kind folks at Buford will always be great hosts right there. You see Graham Houston, I want you to look for his war paint that's on his face. And then also you got Tyreek Green. If we were doing odds or prop bets, I would say that look for Tyreek Green to have maybe multiple touches as a returner, punt returner, kick returner, touches in the red zone. I would probably think he's good for at least a touchdown and maybe 5 or 6 tackles and a pick on Friday night.
So we'll move to the defensive side of the ball. Not as many locks as the offense. We're still got a lot of time left in the cycle. Any games going on for these guys this week that you're going to be keeping an eye out for?
First of all, let's deliver some information because it's being reported by multiple outlets now. Seven Cloud took a visit recently, not to Athens.
To Kentucky.
He also took one to Oklahoma State.
Oh.
So Seven Cloud, obviously, are we going to say like the process is processing or just follow the lack of visits? Thoughts of him staying in the class are obviously have never been strong since the off-the-field stuff popped up this summer. So very interesting to look about there. And you see, again, lots of guys that are kind of locks in there. Justice Fitzpatrick, sad to report, he's missed the first 2 weeks of the season so far with an injury. That included the Mater Dei game and the game last week as well. We'll keep looking and monitoring his progress to see when he gets back on the field as well. Kamari Brooks has got a big one. I think this is the Battle of Watkinsville this weekend. Mm-hmm. I think North Oconee is facing Oconee County this weekend.
And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but do we have an update on Chase Calicut? I feel like we haven't heard anything about that situation.
No, there's really kind of no update there. I would just say, again, people ask me all the time, are those guys going to stick? I don't think both of them stick. I don't even know if one of them sticks right now with the new news from Cloud. But again, Georgia's going to have to find a couple of more pieces in this class because right now they're the number 1 ranked team in the country, got 31 commitments. I think the ranking's going to go up a little bit because I think senior year evals for a lot of these guys are going to get boosted. You know, guys like Kamari Brooks, I think he was probably the most criminally underrated player in Georgia's class. He'll get a boost. You'll see Corey Howard get a boost. Corey told me recently he's hearing from other schools because he's had a great start to his senior year, but he still hasn't had the feeling quite like the feeling he has at Georgia. Also, I've been told maybe we need to add a lock right there, but someone very close to Valden Sohn tells me that thing's shut down. He's not going to entertain official visits to Texas and Ohio State during the season. So that might be some of the best news you guys have heard the entire Before the Hedges program.
And of course, we can't forget about the special teams. Do punters and kickers lock down their recruitment? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think that's a given.
Okay.
Here's the one thing. Lots of times this is a little insider thing right here, Kaylee. Lots of times some schools go, well, are you going to commit to us? Kind of behind the scenes. It's almost like if you say yes, if you say yes, you'll go out with me, then I asked you. But if you say no and you turn me down, I never asked you out. That's one of those things here where a lot of times the offer comes because the kicker or punter says, yes, I'm going to accept your offer and commit to your school. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the offer doesn't come because nobody wants to see their offer not come to fruition.
So we've got our class breakdown, no changes to it. Still ranked number 1 in the country. currently. We'll move on to the top targets. New name on the list this week. We talked about him earlier. It's Jared J. Doughty or Dowdy?
Dowdy, I believe. Georgia State committed to the Fighting Dale McGee's back on June the 22nd. Of course, I think he was choosing between Coastal Carolina, Georgia State, and maybe another smaller school. Now the Dogs are involved. The Dogs have offered. That's getting very interesting as well. Again, with Tyler Chuckham, we're going to see if he takes his official visit to Georgia for the Alabama game. Lots of stories right now being written about Amari Latimer. Here's what I think is going to happen with Latimer. Big year for Wisconsin. Big year for Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell and Wisconsin, if they falter, if they belly flop this year, that opens the door for other schools, namely Georgia, to come charging through. But I think Wisconsin has a great season. I think that commitment will stick. Wisconsin struggles. There's a coaching change, something along those lines. That's the best opportunity for Georgia there.
So that decision would have to come closer to signing day.
I would say so.
Okay. All right. That's our top targets for today's episode. Any final piece of intelligence before we wrap up?
Jared Curtis, folks. He's a real deal. And everybody loves some historical significance here. He would be the first 5-star quarterback Georgia has signed since Brock Vandagriff in 2021. The future looked great with Gunner on Saturday. The present looked great with Gunner on Saturday. The future looked great with Ryan Puglisi taking some shots downfield. But add Jared Curtis to that mix, and let me just do the crystal ball type stuff here. Let's predict the future. I just want you to entertain the thoughts, Kaylee, of Georgia potentially having an all-SEC, all-American quarterback, a Deshaun Watson type, one of those type guys that is great with his legs and great with his arms. Imagine if the good guys, the Georgia Bulldogs, for everybody following this program, are actually the ones with the heavyweight champion quarterback type.
The physical skill set of Deshaun Watson only.
Oh.
I had to.
This is a PG program. Kaylee Mansell. And I'm talking about, because this is what stuck to my mind. Like when I was watching Jared play, right? And we'll obviously been enough about Jared, but one more thing about Jared is I remember when Kirby Smart came to Georgia. He came to Georgia just kind of frustrated a little bit because his defenses at Alabama, which were so strikingly amazing, top rated, he just saw Deshaun Watson shred them a bunch of times in big playoff games. And he was like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We can't do anything with a dual threat quarterback like that. I want to say that's the type of player I think. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've listened to everybody around him. I saw it against a quality opponent that they should have lost to. A freaking computer predicted them to lose by 20 points. Jared Curtis, I think, will hit at Georgia because the evidence here is what it is. And, I got a term for it, Kaylee. Watching him just kind of throw that ball around, almost looked like a bullwhip. He was kind of throwing that thing out there, bullwhip. People that are maybe of my generation will think of Indiana Jones with him shooting that ball out there. I mean, he gets that ball out quick, and it's so funny. When people on the sideline haven't seen Jared Curtis for a while, like I was around, and there were some TV cameramen from Nashville who maybe had not seen Jared before, and they're like, man, that ball gets out quick. And then the other comes by, man, he's got an arm. I was like, yeah, welcome to the party.
All right, guys, thank y'all so much for joining us. Check out DawgNation Daily tomorrow, 10 a.m. And then Braden's actually going to come on DawgNation at Large with me and Connor tomorrow. Ooh. We're going to have some fun with last week's dog walk. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, be there for that. And then you can check us back out here at Before the Hedges next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. We'll see you then.
Business education is important, trying to reach the next level. I want the best in life, I never settle. I'm a bull.